What's up, people? The time has come for another Ask FP, and also the time has come where I've started to get so many Ask FP questions that I gotta trim some down. I can't take them all like I was, which is a good thing because it means a lot of people are asking FP. But so don't be offended if I don't use your question. I have to try to, wean through them. If you ask me something that I can answer maybe down the line, then I can keep it. So let's jump into that first question, and it is from Brandon Valorio. He says, what do you think about Miami Heat center Hassan Whiteside? I think he's playing excellent, and I think his, Linsanity didn't last long because, he's still a decent player, but he's a point guard. It was a system-based thing. If you're a big who can protect the rim, rebound, and block shots, that's not going anywhere. That's going to work in any system. So the dude's going to be a pretty good center. May not be all NBA, but what he's doing right now, as long as he continues to get the minutes, I think he can still do that. Kizzy says, do you think that Odell Beckham Jr. is the most talented up-and-coming wide receiver in the league? I think he's probably athletically, him and Brandon Cooks are right there, but gotta also watch Mike Evans. Mike Evans was right beneath Odell Beckham Jr. and all of the rookie receiving stuff, and he did it without a quarterback. So you got to think about that. But I do think that, Beckham Jr. is definitely the most talented guy right now. Also, he says, even without Brandon Jennings, do you think the Pistons are still playoff contenders in the East? I think they're still contenders, but it's going to obviously be tough because he was generating a lot of their scoring punch from the outside and also running the offense pretty well, which is something that Brandon Jennings generally doesn't get credit for. But I do think they're still the contenders because they're in the East, so you got some room for error there. Next up, what do we got here? My man got another question. He says, if you could be the GM of any team in the league, which draft pick would you redo for them? Sam Bowie for Portland, so that's an example. Obviously, Sam Bowie taking, Portland taking Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan is the one that jumps out to you big. But Portland also took Greg Oden over Kevin Durant, which I don't think was a dumb thing at the time. Greg Oden looked like a beast at the time. So you can look back on it right now and say, what are you doing? But at the time, it wasn't crazy. But Portland would probably be the team I'd do that for. I'm sorry if I couldn't come up with a different one for you. That kid from Philly says, who do you think had a better career, Shane Battier or Shawn Marion? Are you serious, Mr. Kid from Philly? That's not even a question. Shawn Marion had the better career. Shawn Marion's a borderline Hall of Famer, which I got a question coming up along those lines a little bit later. But, yeah, Shane Battier was a good player, had a nice career, but Shawn Marion's one of the best players at his position of his era. So, it's clearly Shawn Marion. That kid from Philly also says, do you think the Eagles should trade Nick Foles? My opinion is no. I'm an Eagles fan. I don't think they should trade him either. Not unless it's to move up to get Marcus Mariota. If they're not moving up to get Marcus Mariota, then I don't think Nick Foles is going to get you that. Not by himself. But trading him and you're going to lean on Mark Sanchez? No, I wouldn't do that either. So essentially, they're just not set at the position, as I think is what we've established here. Jovan Radovanovic. I hope I said that right. Should coaches vote for the NBA All-Star instead of fans? That's a tough question because it is supposed to be a fans game, but it is irritating when you see people like James Harden get left out of the starting lineup and that kind of stuff. So I don't know if it should be coaches. I feels like it should be somebody with some sort of authority. So maybe it should be the coaches. Maybe it should even be players. Simon Torvey Sutherland says, what are your top 5 picks for the NBA draft? Well, obviously, Jahlil Okafor is going to be probably number 1. Karl Anthony Towns, Emmanuel Mudiay. Also, watch out for Stanley, my main man, Stanley Johnson from Arizona. He looks really good. And D'Angelo Russell, I would not be surprised to see him jumping up in the top 5 by the time the draft rolls around. I would not. Simon Torvey Sutherland also says, what do you think of Marshawn Lynch's attitude towards the media? Now, obviously, the Super Bowl's passed, so we got some stuff to talk about with that. But I understand him not wanting to talk. and this might take me longer than 30 seconds. I understand him not wanting to talk, but I just think the way he handles it is really immature. It's like somebody who's like throwing a tantrum and is like, I'm going to try to circumvent the whole system. You know, if there's a right way to do everything, if you don't think that you should have to talk, then go around the channels of trying to make it where it's not mandatory that you talk. Don't throw these little tantrums like you 14 years old. And I'm going to wear a hat and I'm going to say the same phrase. It's ridiculous. And then you take it out on the media. The media is just doing their job, dog. You know, your beef is with the NFL. It's not with the media. Von Resper Jr. says, have you thought about creating prime George Gervin? I sure have, and he is coming. Iceman. You got to love the Fang of Roll. Got to love the Fang of Roll. What else we got? Von Resper Jr. also says, do you think that Shawn Marion is a Hall of Famer? Which we just talked about. Oh, I'm going to say no. And I'm going to tell you why. Because Mike Greenberg of Mike and Mike in the Morning, he has I don't know if it's his theory, but I heard it from him. He says this: if somebody asks you, is someone a Hall of Famer? If there's a hesitation, then they're not. And Shawn Marion, there's a hesitation when I answer that question. And because there's a hesitation, I don't think he should be one. Because if somebody's a Hall of Famer, it should be no doubt, bam, yes. Noah Draper says, when do you think my league will account for expiring contracts and other stuff to make the trading more realistic? I'm hoping they do that this year. I would like to see expiring contracts. I want to see 3-team deals. I want to see sign and trade deals. I want to see everything that's in the NBA CBA in the actual NBA 2K16. So hopefully we get that. What we got next? We got Darth Vader saying, what is the Bears' most needed position to fix via the draft? It's got to be something on the defensive side of the ball. And if the Bears are truly going to go 3-4 like I think they are, I think you got to get an edge pass rusher. So an 3-4 outside linebacker like Shane Ray, like Bud Dupree from Kentucky, maybe even Vic Beasley from Clemson, even though he's a little bit undersized. But I would say that's the #1 position. As much as Cutler has struggled and he's maligned, the Bears defense gets better. I still think Cutler is good enough. You know, he gets on my nerves, but yeah. That kid from Philly says, I know Jordan Matthews is not better than Odell Beckham Jr., but what do you think of Jordan Matthews' season overall? I thought he had a good season. I would probably put him 4th amongst rookie wide receivers, but I thought he had a good season. You know, nice future. Good, you know, good solid player, but yeah, I would definitely say he's a step below, a notch below, or maybe a notch and a half below Beckham and Mike Evans. Evan F. says, what is your least favorite stadium arena that you've been to? My favorite that I've ever been to is the Staples Center. I really like the Staples Center. Staples Center is awesome. It's pretty awesome. My least favorite, you're going to laugh. You're so gonna laugh when I say this, is Wrigley Field. I love the Cubs like fresh water, but the stadium, and maybe it won't be that way after the renovations, but it's just not outside of looking at the ivy, it's really not pleasant. Bathrooms is nasty. It's not pleasant. So there it is. Evan F. says, overpriced player in the NBA today and the worst contract in NBA history. The most overpriced player in the NBA, in my opinion, right now is Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson's not a horrible player at all, but he make like $448 million, dog. And it is really ridiculous. His contract is ridiculous. The worst contract in NBA history was John Hot Rod Williams. He only got paid $5 million, but at that time, he was the highest paid player in the NBA. He made more than Michael Jordan. He made more than everybody that was a superstar was John Hot Rod Williams. That's crazy. Who we got next? We got, what does that say? Bullfan 86. I got the font real low right now. He said, oh, it said Bullfan 86. I thought that was an I, my bad. He said, do you think Tom Thibodeau will leave the Bulls anytime soon? I do. I think it's going to be very soon. I wouldn't even be shocked if he got fired before the end of the season if the team continues to struggle. Also, management hates him. He hates management. He could get a job just about anywhere probably. So, yeah, I don't see him lasting very. I'd be shocked if he's a coach next season unless the Bulls win the championship. So, Beast Coast says, what's your prediction for Jones versus Rumble, and how long do you think ruthless Robbie Lawler will reign as welterweight champion? I wouldn't be surprised if Robbie Lawler lost his first defense. He's just been fighting a lot, and when you fight that much, it's only a matter of time. But Jones versus Rumble, I think Jones wins. I think I just don't doubt him anymore. I just don't doubt him anymore. Rumble's strong. He's intimidating, but I still think Jones is so long and so athletic. So he's not Gustafsson. So I still think Jones wins. Brandon Knoll says, would it be cool if EA Sports UFC brought back event mode? Yes. Man, they need event mode back. Event mode was awesome. It was awesome, man. I really wish they would bring that back and also improve their creative player thing. I don't like it. Noah Jensen says, what college basketball team is more poised for a deep tournament run, Virginia or Kentucky? I think Kentucky is more poised. I really like Virginia, but I think Kentucky they're just so deep, man. But I do worry about the platoon substitution patterns, because when it comes down to crunch time, I think rhythm, there's something to be said for rhythm. And when you're constantly subbing out whole entire units like that, I don't know how that's going to work, So, I don't know. We'll see. Noah Jensen says, rest in peace to Sean Taylor. Had he not been tragically murdered so early in his career, do you think he would have been one of the best safeties in league history? One of the best DBs, maybe. I really do think he was going to be a Hall of Famer, one of the best safeties that ever played the game. I mean, his size, strength, speed, ferociousness on the field, playmaking ability. Sean Taylor was a monster. And, yeah, so I definitely think he was going to be. What else we have? Walter Davis says, who do you think will win the NFC North next season? And do you think the Lions are good enough to make a playoff run? I think the Cowboys win the NFC North again. And I think that Lions are good enough to make a playoff run, but obviously a lot of that is contingent upon whether or not Ndamukong Suh comes back via free agency. If he does not come back, they're going to have to do something to fill that void. A lot of people are talking about them possibly taking Danny Shelton, who is, in my opinion, the second best defensive tackle prospect behind Leonard Williams, if Leonard Williams actually plays defensive tackle. So, yeah, they're good enough, but they have some if-then type of stuff going on. Jalen Cook says, do you think the EA will add create a rink mode in a future NHL game? Ooh, I don't think so. I don't think there's a lot of hockey fans pining for a create a rink mode. I think it would be cool, especially if you design like the graphics that are going to be in the ice and everything. I think that would be really cool, but I don't know. HDG Ball Out says, do you think that jump shooting teams like the Hawks can win a championship? According to Barkley, they can't. Well, Barkley wouldn't necessarily agree with him on that, because technically the San Antonio Spurs, aside from Tim Duncan, are a jump shot shooting team. I mean, the Hawks are built very much like the Spurs, so I certainly think a jump shot shooting team like them can win the championship. They have to get hot, though, and that's the thing, and that's what happened with the Spurs last year. AJ Harris says, personally, I think Jerome Bettis should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. What are your thoughts on this year's class? Well, as far as Bettis being a first ballot Hall of Famer, I don't know. He deserves to be there, but first ballot, I don't know about that. Charles Haley finally got in. I think it was time for him to get there. Tim Brown certainly deserved to be there. Obviously, Junior Seau, one of the best middle linebackers of all time, deserved to be there. And Will Shields, one of the best offensive guards in his era, deserved to be there too. So, I mean, I don't have a problem. And then you had some of the older guys that I really couldn't even speak about. Mick Tingelhoff. That's what, I'm going to just say he deserved to be there. AJ Harris says, now that Savage and Schwarzenegger are in, who are your remaining predictions for the WWE Hall of Fame this year? You know what, WWE Hall of Fame, you never really know. But I know it would be nice to see Chyna get in. I know she's got some problems, but I think she deserves to be in. I do. The Great Patriot Gloat Time says, I always said Brady, and he's typing all caps. Look at him. I always said Brady gets 4 rings. He's a GOAT. Greatest quarterback of all time. Do you agree? You know what my answer is. I don't know. In my opinion, Joe Montana, John Elway are still the best quarterbacks of all time, but Brady's definitely in the conversation for sure. So I couldn't call that stupid, but there's mine. Dante says, can you tell me why the Seahawks passed instead of running with Lynch in Super Bowl? Oh, man. I hear people talking about conspiracy theories. That's like so ridiculous. How is it a conspiracy theory? You give a man the ball 27 times and he rushes for 102 yards and a touchdown. If you wanted to hold him back, you wouldn't have given him the ball that many times. You wouldn't have run him the play before you threw the interception. So that's just ridiculous. I think it's just stupid play calling. A lot of times these coaches outsmart themselves, and I think that's what it was. We see stupid play calls inside the 5-yard line all season long, and we just yell at the TV then and we forget about it next week. The only difference was this was the Super Bowl. Still stupid play calling. Rayon Haravi says, if Griffey Jr. was healthy, do you think he is or would have gone down as the GOAT, considering he played clean in the roid area? I think he's arguably in that conversation anyway, regardless. Begin with all of it. I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. is one of the greatest players that ever played the game. He really had any weaknesses. So I think he's in that conversation already. Matt Price says, who are your top 5 African-American wrestlers of all time? This is a good question, Matt. I would have to obviously start off with The Rock, and I know he's mixed, biracial or whatever, but I would put him there. Mark Henry for sure. So underrated. Farouk is there. Obviously, 5-time. Booker T is there. He's for sure. And number 5, just on some legend type stuff, is Tony Atlas. Those are my top 5. Matt Price also says, thoughts on Commissioner Silver adding Cousins instead of Lillard. I thought Cousins deserved to go. You the only player in the NBA in the top 6 in scoring and rebounding. He was leading the league in double-doubles for the majority of the season. Also, kind of going back on some wrestling talk, he kind of needed to be put over. Lillard's already over with the NBA fan base. He's already over. People are still trying to warm up to a Boogie, and putting him in the All-Star team kind of helps that. And he deserved it. Jalen Murray says, do you think Tom Brady deserves the Super Bowl MVP award? I kind of think he got it by default, to be honest, so I can't think anybody else deserved it more. You could have given it to Edelman, but Tom Brady did throw 4 touchdown passes against the best defense in the NFL for the last 2 seasons. He threw 2 interceptions, too, and one of them was absolutely ridiculous, but I still think, yeah, you can't really argue with it. Matt Price says, do the Denver Nuggets need to blow up their team? I think they need to blow up their team minus getting rid of everybody except Ty Lawson and Kenneth Faried. Those 2 guys are winners. They play with a winning attitude, but everybody else are guys who are talented, but they're talented, but. And when you have a bunch of guys who are talented, but you're going to underachieve. In the Western Conference, they need to rebuild and build around those 2 guys, in my opinion. Jordan Newhook says, when you do the Legends My League series, will you play all 82 games or set it to 14, 29, or 58? It's not going to be 82, so I'm not sure if I will do. I'm probably thinking 29. That's what I'm thinking, more than likely. It could change, but I think 29 games is probably the more realistic amount that I'm going to go with. So, yes. Brian Dempsey Jr. says, any thoughts on the passing of Mr. Cub, a.k.a. Ernie Banks? Maybe a favorite memory? Well, I don't really have like a memory because I'm not old enough to have seen him play or whatever. But, obviously, God bless his family and everything. Live a long, nice, prosperous life. And, really, he's definitely probably goes down as the favorite Cub of all time. People want to blot out the Sammy Sosa years, but they happened, and Sammy was great. But Ernie Banks is definitely the feel-good Cub of all time. Josh Bennett says, should 2K bring the body morphing from WWE 2K to NBA 2K next year? Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. That's one of the only things that NBA 2K is missing is realistic body types, but I have a feeling that's coming. Saw a tweet from somebody, I don't remember, I think it was the Brooklyn Nets. Guys were getting their entire body scanned and not just their face. That's big time stuff. I hope that's exactly what that means. The last question, that kid from Philly says, should Chandler Parsons be in the same category as Jimmy Butler and Klay Thompson when it comes to a two-way player? Chandler Parsons is a really good defender. Offensively, he's good, but I don't think he gets his shot off the dribble well enough to be included in the same category as Jimmy Butler and Klay Thompson. Those guys can both put the ball on the floor and get to the free throw line if they need to. Chandler Parsons is still primarily a spot-up jump shot shooter. Still a very good player, but I don't think he's quite on that level. That wraps it up for this episode of Ask FP. Y'all keep asking FP, and like I said, I'm sorry if I can't get to your question. I'm going to try to take the best one, so make those questions good. God bless. Peace.